10 most toxic places on our planet. Number 10. The toxic Leather River in Hazarabad. On the outskirts of Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, lies Hazarabad, a place that represents the dark secret behind the global leather industry. For decades, this neighborhood was home to over 200 tanneries, operating without any environmental regulations. Every day, approximately 22,000 liters of toxic waste, including the dreaded hexavalent chromium, a potent carcinogen, were dumped directly into the Buriganga River. The result was an apocalyptic landscape, a black, lifeless river in air, thick with the nauseating stench of chemicals and decaying flesh, affecting the health of hundreds of thousands of people. Although the government of Bangladesh has relocated most of these tanneries to a new complex with waste treatment facilities, the toxic legacy of Hazarabad persists. The soil and groundwater are deeply contaminated with heavy metals like chromium, cadmium, and lead. Former workers and local residents, especially children, suffer from an alarming incidence of skin diseases, respiratory problems, and cancer. Hazarabad is a grim reminder of the human and environmental cost often hidden behind the products we consume daily. Number 9. La Ooya and its rain of heavy metals. High in the Peruvian Andes, over 12,000 feet, 3,700 meters above sea level, sits La Ooya, a mining town that for nearly a century was synonymous with heavy metal poisoning. Its smelter, built in 1922, processed minerals rich in lead, copper, zinc, and arsenic, releasing tons of toxic pollutants directly into the air, soil, and the Mantaro River. During its operation, the plant was the sole source of employment for most of the population, creating a deadly economic dependence that silenced protests for years. Studies revealed that 99% of the children in La Ooya had blood lead levels that far exceeded the acceptable limits set by the World Health Organization. This massive exposure has caused irreversible neurological damage, developmental problems, and a reduced life expectancy for entire generations. Although the smelter has operated intermittently in recent years due to financial and environmental issues, the damage is already done. La Ooya is a devastated ecosystem, a Chernobyl of the Andes, where the land itself is poisonous and the legacy of industrial pollution will take centuries to disappear. Number 8. Agbogbloshie, the world's electronic graveyard. Known as Sodom and Gomorrah by locals, Agbogbloshie in Ghana is one of the largest and most toxic e-waste dumps on the planet. Every year, hundreds of thousands of tons of computers, televisions, mobile phones, and other electronic devices from Europe and North America are illegally discarded here. Young people, often children, burn the plastics off these devices in open-air fires to extract valuable metals like copper, aluminum, and gold, which they then sell for a few dollars a day. This burning process releases a cloud of thick, black smoke laden with extremely dangerous chemicals. Lead, mercury, cadmium, and brominated flame retardants seep into the soil, poison the nearby Odaw River, and contaminate the entire local food chain. Workers and residents suffer from chronic headaches, acute respiratory problems, and a high incidence of cancer. Agbogbloshie is not just an environmental disaster but a human rights crisis that exposes the darkest side of global consumerism and the life cycle of our technology. Number 7. Kabwe and the silent legacy of lead. In the heart of Zambia lies the city of Kabwe, a place that holds the grim record of being one of the most lead-contaminated sites in the world. For over 90 years, a massive lead mine and smelter operated without any environmental controls, spewing particles of this heavy metal into the air, which settled over a radius of kilometers. The smelter closed in 1994, but it left behind a deadly inheritance that continues to poison the population. The dust in Kabwe is so saturated with lead that soil levels exceed international safety limits by up to 10 times. For children, who often play in the dirt, the risk is extreme. It is estimated that over 200,000 people suffer from chronic lead poisoning, which causes permanent brain damage, paralysis, hearing loss, and even death. Despite cleanup efforts, the poison is so pervasive and ingrained in the fabric of the city that Kabwe remains a toxic trap, a place where the simple act of breathing or playing can have fatal consequences. Number 6. The latent threat of Mylu-Su. Hidden in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan, the town of Mylu-Su was a pillar of the Soviet nuclear program, a secret place where uranium was mined and processed. When the mine closed, the Soviets simply abandoned millions of cubic meters of radioactive waste in 23 enormous open-air dumps dangerously situated on the mountainsides, just above the town and its river. These dumps contain not only uranium, but also other lethal elements like radium, thorium, and radon. The real terror of Mylu-Su is not just the constant radiation, which has already led to an increase in cancer rates and birth defects, but the risk of a major catastrophe. The area is seismically active and prone to landslides. A strong earthquake or torrential rain could cause one of these dumps to collapse, releasing a tide of radioactive sludge that would contaminate the Mylu-Su River and, subsequently, the freshwater supply of the entire densely populated Fergana Valley, affecting millions of people in Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. It is a radioactive time bomb waiting for the wrong moment to detonate. Number 5. Norilsk, the city of red smoke. In the far north of Siberia, inside the Arctic Circle, lies Norilsk, a Russian industrial city and one of the most polluted places on the face of the earth. It is the center of the world's largest nickel and palladium smelting complex. Every year, its factories release over 2 million tons of sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, along with arsenic, lead, cadmium, and nickel. This pollution is so extreme that it causes acid rain that has destroyed over 9,000 square miles, 24,000 square kilometers, of the surrounding taiga forest, creating a lunar landscape of dead trees and poisoned soil. Life in Norilsk is grim. Life expectancy is 10 years lower than the Russian average, and rates of respiratory diseases, cancer, and blood disorders are astronomical. The pollution is so severe that sometimes rivers, like the Daldakan, are dyed blood red due to industrial waste. Despite being one of Russia's wealthiest cities from its metal production, the environmental and human cost is incalculable, turning Norilsk into a frozen and toxic hell at the top of the world. Number 4. Gjensk and its forgotten chemical weapons. During the Cold War, the Russian city of Gjensk was the main center for the Soviet Union's chemical weapons production. Some of the most lethal substances ever created by man were manufactured here, including sarin gas, VX gas, and lewisite. For decades, between 1930 and 1998, nearly 300,000 tons of chemical waste were improperly disposed of, buried in underground aquifers, and dumped into lakes now known as the Black Hole and the White Sea. Masses of chemical sludge, so caustic they defy life. Gjensk once held the Guinness World Record as the most chemically polluted city in the world. Water contamination from dioxins and phenol exceeds safe levels by a factor of 17 million. The death rate has surpassed the birth rate by 260%, and the life expectancy for men is a mere 42 years. Although chemical weapons production has ceased, the poisonous legacy is so deeply embedded in the soil and water that the city remains a large-scale toxic experiment, a perpetual reminder of the horrors of chemical warfare. Number 3. The radioactive leak of Fukushima. On March 11, 2011, a massive earthquake and subsequent tsunami triggered a catastrophe at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in Japan. The disaster led to the meltdown of 3 of the 6 nuclear reactors, releasing enormous quantities of radioactive material into the air and the Pacific Ocean. It became the worst nuclear accident since Chernobyl, forcing the evacuation of over 150,000 people and creating an extensive exclusion zone that remains largely uninhabited to this day. The impact of Fukushima is global and long-lasting. Radioactive contamination has been detected across the entire Pacific Ocean, affecting marine life and generating international concern. The biggest challenge is the management of over 1 million tons of contaminated water used to cool the melted reactors, which is now being gradually released into the ocean after a treatment process. Fukushima is a terrifying reminder that even the most technologically advanced nations are not immune to the dangers of nuclear energy, and its toxic consequences will be felt for generations. Number 2. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Unlike other places on this list, our number 2 is not on solid ground. It is a floating nation of debris, a toxic soup known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Located between Hawaii and California, this gigantic accumulation of plastics is the largest of the 5 that exist in the world's oceans. It is estimated to contain at least 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic and covers an area 3 times the size of France. It is not a solid island, but a massive concentration of microplastics, often invisible to the naked eye, suspended beneath the surface like a toxic smog. This plastic soup is a death trap for marine life. Turtles, seabirds, and mammals mistake the plastic pieces for food, leading to starvation, suffocation, and lethal entanglement. But the danger goes further. The plastic absorbs other chemical pollutants from the ocean, like PCBs and pesticides, concentrating them and reintroducing them into the food chain, which can eventually reach our plates. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a grotesque monument to our throwaway culture, an artificial and toxic ecosystem that we are creating in real time, with devastating consequences for the health of the entire planet. Number 1. Chernobyl, the exclusion zone. On April 26, 1986, reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Soviet Ukraine exploded during a failed safety test. The explosion and subsequent fire released a cloud of radioactive material into the atmosphere that was 400 times greater than that of the Hiroshima bomb. The radioactive fallout spread across all of Europe, but the disaster's epicenter became the most toxic place in human history. To contain the catastrophe, a 1,000 square mile, 2,600 square kilometers, exclusion zone was established, evacuating hundreds of thousands of people from their homes forever. Today, more than 3 decades later, the Chernobyl exclusion zone remains a hauntingly and dangerously radioactive landscape. The ghost town of Pripyat, once home to 50,000 people, crumbles in silence, a testament frozen in time to the scale of the disaster. Although nature has begun to reclaim the area, with wildlife returning in surprising ways, the soil, plants, and buildings remain contaminated with dangerous isotopes like cesium-137 and strontium-90, which will take thousands of years to decay to safe levels. Chernobyl is the ultimate symbol of humanity's destructive power, a place where an invisible mistake poisoned the Earth for millennia, earning it the undisputed top spot as the most toxic place on our planet.
Thank you for watching our video. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Give it a like, comment your thoughts, and share this video with your friends and family.